art is becoming an outlet to help them get through life. It is not always easy to quantify the impacts of the abstract.
We are going to write or draw about a time you felt confident.
Art instructor Katie Makishin knows that well.
A lot of us created plaster casts of our faces.
She also knows the paint and latex her students are working with will fade someday, which is why her goal is to leave a more lasting impression.
So it's good that the kids can learn how, you can fail 7 times, but you just have to succeed 8.
I met Katie on a recent Wednesday afternoon inside Project Create, located in one of Washington, D.C.'s most impoverished neighborhoods. This nonprofit has become a place of refuge for young people, many of whom are experiencing homeless insecurity.
Most of our students are very regular,
but all of them have now found a permanent home in art.
You could use this as a base and then think of what other colors to add.
I'll be able to show my parents what I've been doing all this time.
Including 11-year-old Askia Turnipseed.
And I saw these colors on a Native American and I thought that was cool.
Putting the finishing touches on this latex mask for an upcoming art show students are hosting. Are you proud of what you've been doing?
Mm-hmm. Very proud.
What makes you proud of what you've been working on?
What makes me proud is all the hard work I put into it.
The kids that come here, I think, feel very much like this is a home away from home.
As Project Create's executive director, Christy Walzer, says many classes also double as therapy for kids and their families. It's not just about the art. There's things going on below the surface.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I think, the kids feel like they're being creative and having fun and making art, but they're actually addressing an undercurrent of feelings and emotions and things. Some of them are very difficult.
Every year, an estimated 4.2 million youth and young adults experience homelessness in the U.S. Most experts, though, believe that number is undercounted because of how hard it can be to contact homeless youth. For those who have experienced homelessness or are experiencing homelessness, this brings what to them?
I think a sense of place, a sense of stability, a sense of continuity.
Coming from the community that we come from, a lot of times you're battling a lot. You're battling the temptations.
The belief here is that giving kids like Ahmad Woodard an outlet to grow their talents will help them find their way, no matter where they call home.
Art has done everything for me, and it still is doing everything for me.
Keep you going? Keep you out of trouble?
Keep me out of trouble. Art is like air to me.
Make it super duper pink.
As for that class Katie Makishin runs, it lasts for 11 weeks. Attendance can often fluctuate.
We're just going to tap, tap, tap.
Which is just part of life here.
At this age, a lot of guardians like to give their kids some more choices. So sometimes they might choose not to come.
At the end of the day, though, it's the beauty in the art these kids are creating. She wants them to remember.
Figuring that out as a form of expression, they might want to continue outside of class.
Chris Conti, Scripps News, Washington.
Side hustles or side gigs were once thought of as a way to make extra money or get ahead. But more often these days, side hustles are needed to make ends meet. That's according to a new side hustle survey from Bankrate.com.
I mean, it's admirable that people are putting in the extra time and effort, but I would have hoped that more people were either getting ahead in the sense of saving more, investing, paying down debt, things like that, or pursuing a passion project. But in most cases, people say they just need this money to meet their day-to-day expenses.
Bankrate's Ted Rossman tells us 39% of adults now have a side hustle. 44% of those workers believe they'll always need one. A spring poll from the Washington Post found most workers would prefer 4 10-hour days instead of the 5-day work week. In the poll, 75% of people would choose the longer days, but most would not be willing to sacrifice pay in return.
Netflix is starting to charge for password sharing in the U.S. If you have the standard or premium plan, it's going to cost you an additional $8 a month to let someone who doesn't live in the same home with you use your account. That's $2 less than it would cost to buy the company's basic plan. Netflix isn't providing details on how it confirms subscriber identities or accounts, but it says everyone in the same household will still be able to stream at home or when they're out.
Thanks for joining us. I'm Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Wolz. We'll kick off your Thursday morning once again on the humid side, but lots of sunshine expected, at least for the first half of the day. Second half of the day from 2 o'clock onward, keep your eye to the sky for developing showers and storms. And while most of those storms will mainly be affecting our inland communities, we could have a couple a little closer to the coastline, but right here around 8 p.m. Again, note it's mainly Hendry Glades extending into northern and central Collier County, heading down the alley. Same story as we look ahead to your Friday as well. Another quiet start expected, but for the afternoon, those showers and storms will be bubbling up, and some of those storms could impact outdoor plans. Overnight tonight, clouds partially clearing, will drop down to 72 degrees. Afternoon temperatures tomorrow up to 91, but feeling more like 97 because of that humidity. Then, of course, those afternoon storms will be cooling down some of us for the next couple of days. Over the weekend, we'll pull back those rain chances to isolated Saturday. Then we'll stay mostly sunny both Sunday into Memorial Day.
Recalls and alerts involving the #1 cause of food contamination hospitalizations and deaths in the U.S. nearly doubled in 2022 compared to 2019. We're talking about salmonella. This is according to a new analysis out today from the U.S. PERC Education Fund. There were 39 of these recalls and alerts last year, up from 21 in 2019. The number of salmonella-related incidents was nearly as high in 2021 as 2022 as well. It's not clear yet exactly what is driving the increase.
We have a feeling that it's just the prevalence of it that, I mean, it's just so easy to encounter salmonella. And, you know, if people aren't engaging in good hand washing techniques and also just good food preparation techniques, that could be part of the cause.
Salmonella is especially something to be thinking about with Memorial Day events coming up and just summer in general. These types of illnesses happen more often in the summer because the bacteria likes warm temperatures.
A lot of the foods that we have, like at outdoor picnics, like your potato salad, like your cantaloupe, those kinds of things, you know, they're really just havens for bacteria. And of course, a lot of people, you go to graduation parties, you go to picnics, Memorial Day weekend gatherings, and people may tend to put away like the meat and maybe the dairy products, but they may not put away like the melon.
If it's above 90 degrees, you don't want food out for more than an hour. No more than 2 hours if the food is at room temperature. One positive note on recalls from the report, they were down for E. coli, listeria, and pieces of plastic or metal showing up in food.
It's not just cars. Lawnmowers and leaf blowers are also going electric these days. It's the hottest trend in lawn care. But there are some things to know before you trade in your gas-powered tools. Dirk Martyr has owned an outdoor power equipment store for 2 decades.
That's your ground speed.
But he's never seen a trend like this happen so quickly.
That's your mower with sound.
Many customers now want electric mowers and trimmers, even chainsaws.
Small subdivision, tree pruning.
And companies are cranking out lithium tools in response, from popular brands like Stihl, DeWalt, Cub Cadet, and Craftsman, to newcomers like Ego.
With more and more smaller yards, people don't want to mess with gas. They don't want to mess with oil. They don't want to pull a cord.
Tyler Graham is co-founder of the site The Lawn Review. He says at higher price points, battery technology is performing as well or even outperforming some gas-powered equipment.
If you buy the most expensive electric, it's going to be better than its gas equivalent.
Tyler recommends a couple of key words. First, brushless motor, which he says is more efficient.
Just giving you longer run times, more powerful cuts.
Also look for an advertised run time somewhere in the 50 to 60 minute range. And lastly, a battery charge time. Know how long the battery needs to get juiced. Of course, electric won't be for everyone. If you have several acres, one battery won't be enough.
If you have a half acre or less, you're not going to run into an issue where you run out of battery.
Something else to keep in mind. Some states and cities like California and Washington, D.C. are phasing out new purchases of gas-powered equipment to cut back on air and noise pollution. So next time you need a mower or leaf blower, consider electric.
You just take it off the shelf, put a battery in and go.
And that way you don't waste your money. I'm John Matteries.
A rocky start to the governor's long-anticipated presidential announcement.
One of the things you don't want to do in a race to the White House is come out of the starting gate stumbling.
We have a political analysis and how the governor is now spinning the delayed start on Twitter tonight.
A jury still considering the sentence to recommend for the man convicted of killing an 11-year-old girl and her babysitter in Cape Coral back in 1990. We get caught up on the closing arguments as deliberations keep up.
And a hit and run in Cape Coral caught on camera as the driver involved tried to cover up her license plate. How the victim is describing the bizarre encounter.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 10.
Well, it is official. Governor Ron DeSantis has filed to run for president of the United States, followed by an unconventional announcement tonight on Twitter Spaces. Thanks for watching Fox 4 News at 10 on this busy Wednesday. I'm Nadine Yanis.
I'm Chris. I've been covering presidential announcements for a long time. Lots to unpack with this one. The governor releasing a campaign video tonight as well, revealing his slogan, the Great American Comeback. As Jessica Dean reports, his campaign launch, though, got off to a rocky start.
Do you go with the crowd, or do you look at the data yourself and cut against the grain? And I chose to do the latter.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' attempt to declare his candidacy for president in a unique way, with Twitter owner Elon Musk on Twitter Spaces, an audio-only platform, plagued by technical issues at the start.
So things just keep crashing, huh?
Yeah, I think we've got just a massive number of people online, so it's servers are straining somewhat.
But server issues caused the rollout to be plagued with problems, with Team DeSantis tweeting, quote, "It seems we broke the internet with so much excitement. While you're waiting, donate now."
We must look forward, not backwards. We need the courage to lead, and we must have the strength to win.
DeSantis also asked about the NAACP issuing a travel advisory against his state, claiming Florida is not safe for minorities to visit.
Claiming that Florida is unsafe is a total farce. I mean, are you kidding me?
Wednesday's Twitter event, the latest move in DeSantis' presidential campaign rollout. He filed paperwork earlier Wednesday with the Federal Election Commission. On Tuesday, DeSantis' wife, Casey, tweeted a hype video encouraging supporters to sign up for campaign updates.
America has been worth it. Every single time.
DeSantis jumps in the Republican primary following months of speculation about the Florida governor's political future, fueled by a national book tour and visits to key early nominating states.
I have only begun to fight.
As the Republican primary fight intensifies, a new CNN poll shows former President Donald Trump leading the GOP field, with roughly double the support of DeSantis and no other candidate in double figures. But the survey also finds the Republican field to be far from settled. More than 8 in 10 of those polled said they'd either support or say they're open to considering either Trump or DeSantis.
We have to reject the culture of losing that has infected our party in recent years. We have no more time for excuses.
DeSantis and Trump have appeared to be on a collision course for months, with the former president launching repeated attacks against the Florida governor.
DeSantis is very low and crashing. He's crashing and burning.
But DeSantis has been intentional in not directly attacking Trump, instead using his speeches around the country to draw contrast.
I don't have time for drama. I don't have time for palace intrigue. I want to make sure that we're executing the agenda. And you know what's happened over the last 4 years? We don't have leaks. We don't have drama. All we do is get the job done day after day.
And before his announcement, the governor signed an election reform bill into law. This will allow him to run for president without having to resign as Florida governor. State lawmakers crafted the exception to the state's resign to run law during this past legislative session in Tallahassee. Republicans have said repeatedly this is not a gift to the governor, saying they see no issue with juggling a national campaign with his role as Florida's governor. But some Democrats already see him as an absentee governor with his global travels of late and also the trips to states like Iowa and New Hampshire. Political experts note it is a big risk.
This is not the West Wing where Jed Bartlett is the president of New Hampshire and that's all he's got to, worry about. This is a big, complex state. It's why we don't see a lot of big state governors make it to that next level.
We have seen this in the past 50 years, though, from larger states, with George W. Bush from Texas and Ronald Reagan from California getting the Oval Office, being governors of highly populated states. Bush was still in office, though, when elected in 2000.
Now, the way Governor DeSantis decided to announce his presidential campaign through Twitter Spaces does have a lot of people talking. So in our next half hour, we will explain the relationship between DeSantis and billionaire CEO Elon Musk and how it could either help or hurt his run to the White House.
Now we've extended coverage on Fox4Now.com of the announcement for Governor Ron DeSantis as he tries for the Oval Office. Tonight, jurors are still deliberating what's going to happen to Joseph Zeiler. Zeiler is a man who killed 11-year-old Robin Cornell and Lisa Story 33 years ago in Cape Coral. They've been behind closed doors since 5:30 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, and they are still going. This is a late-night deliberation. They will recommend one of two options for the judge tonight: a death sentence for Zeiler or send him to prison for at least 25 years. Fox 4's Caitlin Knapp has been in court since this morning. She has how we got to this point.
Family members of Robin and Lisa are just a few stories above me, waiting for what the jury will decide. It's a piece of closure that they are going to get 33 years after the murders of Robin and Lisa. Jurors have a lot to take into consideration. State prosecutors have to prove certain factors that would constitute the death penalty. Today, they used testimony from the victim's own family and doctors to do that. Meanwhile, the defense also used doctors, telling the jury they should not sentence Zeiler to death for many reasons: his age, mental health disabilities, among other things. With the new state law, only 8 jurors rather than 12 are needed to recommend the death penalty, but they don't ultimately have the final say. Judge Robert Branning has the final say. However, he has to take the recommendation into heavy consideration when he has the sentencing for Zeiler, which likely will not be tonight. Again, deliberations are still underway. We could have a decision tonight or tomorrow morning. We'll continue to keep you updated as jurors decide Zeiler's fate. Reporting inside the Lee County Courthouse, Caitlin Knapp, Fox 4.
And Justin, those jurors are going back right now to decide if they are going to wrap up for the night. We'll follow through for you. Also tonight, we are working to find answers about a house fire that you see here on Southwest 36th Terrace and Agua Linda Boulevard in Cape Coral. City officials say the fire is now out, but as you can see, it created thick smoke coming from all sides of the home and into the sky. It's not clear how this fire started or if anyone was hurt, but we will share those details once we learn more.
Fox 4 is also tracking this 300-acre wildfire in Lee County burning north of Corkscrew Road in Estero near the Place and Verdana Village living communities. The Florida Forest Service says crews have contained 80% of the fire. Estero fire crews are also working on scene to put it out. They do note the wind is leading to real challenges like some of the thick smoke coming from it, but they do note no structures are threatened at this time.
And take a look at this, a thunderstorm that hit Hendry County around 4:30 this afternoon, causing damage to a nursing home. The sheriff's office says deputies actually helped Clewiston police evacuate residents at that nursing home, the Clewiston Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. This after some strong winds caused roof damage there. Deputies say residents have been relocated, but there are no injuries. Katie.
And this is what that storm looked like as it moved through Clewiston right around 4:30. So we know that these storms can be robust. They can produce heavy rain, frequent lightning, and in this case, gusty, damaging winds right here in the Clewiston area right around 4:30. That's when we did see some of that roof damage. Thankfully, that was the only damage report from this afternoon's round of storms. But meanwhile, the only round of storms we have about 30 miles offshore. And take a look at this from the Tarpon Lodge. As we look live, there you go, toward the Gulf of Mexico. Quite the light show right now. But again, these storms are about 30 miles away and are not moving anywhere close to Southwest Florida. Now, heading into tomorrow, we will be seeing another round of wet weather arrive. I'll be timing that and where we have the best likelihood of those storms to impact plans coming up.
Katie, we will see you then. Well, tonight it was a bizarre hit and run caught on camera showing a driver covering up the license plate before taking off. Now, the person recording says they left that scene of the accident. Fox 4's Colton Chavez catching up with that driver who's a teenager here who says they were behind the wheel and holding that cell phone. Colton live for us at Veterans Memorial Parkway in Cape Coral just after Santa Barbara Boulevard with more on this intense video, Colton.
Yeah, so Nadine, it was right here on Veterans Parkway where we see that video begin. Now, the recorder of that video, 16-year-old Bella Cruz, she says she was rounding this corner onto Veterans Parkway when she says a driver behind her ran into the back of her vehicle. She says both her and the other driver pulled over to the side of the road, and for Bella, she said it felt like a routine fender bender. They were just exchanging information. But it was when Bella says she went back to her car to get her cell phone to take a picture of the other car's license plate. She says that's when that driver started to disguise that license plate and eventually took off. And of course, Bella got all of this recorded on her cell phone.
As soon as I got my phone, she started opening her trunk and grabbed a blanket or a towel out of her trunk and then started covering her license plate.
Cape Coral High schooler Isabella Cruz caught what she says was a bizarre hit and run on her cell phone Tuesday, right after she said she was hit from behind, claiming the other driver ran into her driver's side back bumper while Isabella says she was turning right from Santa Barbara on a Veterans Memorial Parkway. And she said the first thing she reached for was her cell phone.
I was like, if I don't have her license plate, at least let me get a video of her covering in the type of car, because I didn't know what car she was in.
The damage, a single dent seen on Isabella's back bumper. But inside the car, in the same driver's seat where she recorded from, Isabella tells me she gave up a lot to afford the car that takes her both to school and her part-time job, which pays for it all.
I quit soccer, a sport that I played for 10 years, just to start making money. And most of them, they just get a first car as soon as they're 16. They don't have to pay insurance. Every month I pay $500 out of my checks.
Isabella quickly calling police and filing a report as she watched that driver take off.
If I let her get away, I was honestly gonna chase her. But at the same time, I was I was supposed to stay. My mom was already on her way. A cop will come. This can be taken a better, easier way.
And throughout tonight, I have reached out to the Cape Coral Police Department, both calling them and emailing them, just try to get more information on this incident. Isabella is showing me that police report and giving me a case number so we can look out for you as the search continues for that suspected driver. And we'll continue to update you both on air and online at fox4now.com. But for now, live in Cape Coral, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
All right, Colton, thank you for that report. Well, more than 70 years since a key moment in World War II, Filipino veterans finally receiving the honor and recognition they were promised while fighting alongside Americans.
But it came too late for many of these veterans. Ahead on Fox 4, I'll meet the daughter of a Filipino general to talk about her heritage amid heroism.
And later on, a manhunt for a fugitive on the run. Take a look at this. It ends in a DeSoto County home. How deputies say they finally caught him.
Throughout the month of May, this is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And tonight, we're focusing on the service and sacrifice in the Pacific theater of World War II. With 70-plus years of no formal recognition for Filipino veterans until just a few years ago, through the eyes and the experiences of a war hero's daughter.
A glance around Pearl Cruz Morrison's Cape Coral home reveals a person with her life in Florida and her heart forever in the islands, the Pacific.
The Filipino people and the country itself has always been very loyal to the American nation.
Her family shares a truly global experience, born on an airbase in the Philippines as the youngest of 5, the only girl, the daughter of a Filipino veteran, Colonel Antonio Cruz, war hero from World War II, survivor of the Bataan Death March, also a prisoner of war held by Japan.
We're promised compensation. They were promised citizenship. They were promised recognition. Unfortunately, after the surrender in 1945, President Truman retracted it.
The signs of the war in the Pacific fill the air in Cape Coral, where the Iwo Jima Memorial has stood since 1964. Think of those islands: Guam, the Northern Marianas, Iwo Jima, Okinawa, the Philippines, all key parts of victory in the Pacific, the unforgettable sacrifice. Colonel Antonio Cruz died in 2003, and it would be another 12 years until the Filipino Veterans of World War II Congressional Gold Medal Act of 2015. What does this mean to you?
I guess the story of my father's life. Endurance, dedication, passion, and all for freedom.
This is why we're telling Pearl Cruz Morrison's story. It's a Filipino story and very much an American story. She's lived all over the world, from the Philippines to Toronto to Southwest Florida for the past 21 years, and even now.
I'd say about a week ago, I was in BJ's, and I was at the deli, and I was ready to order something, and the gentleman behind the deli goes, "Where did you come from?" So I figured I'd say, "From my house,"
With those encounters that she can laugh off from the outside, the legacy and the sacrifice of her father, Antonio Cruz, who retired as a general but insisted on being referred to as a colonel, is among the best of us as a nation, one finally rightfully honored.
And we'll close out with this. Pearl, when we met, also talked about Ponciano Mauricio. Have you ever heard of him? Mr. Mauricio lived in Cape Coral for the past 38 years of his life. He died in February of this year. He was 105. Mr. Mauricio also survived the Bataan Death March of 1942. He was one of the few still alive after the Gold Medal Act of 2015 to honor Filipino veterans to actually receive it in person. I have an extended story on both Mr. Cruz and Mr. Mauricio and their lives. It's online right now, fox4now.com.
Yeah, beautiful tribute, Chris. Thank you. Well, another sign of recovery. The Fort Myers Beach Publix is opening its doors to customers tomorrow for the first time since Hurricane Ian. Now, we first reported the planned reopening at that Publix when workers were preparing the store there, but now they say they are ready to bring back shoppers. Also, staying on Fort Myers Beach, where Beach Baptist Church leaders say they took a deal with developers so that they could make repairs after Ian. Listen to this. At no cost. The plan includes 36 workforce housing units, 105 condo units built on the property right along Estero Boulevard there on Mid-Island. Beach Baptist will be holding an open house tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. to get your input on those plans.
I'd gotten so used to the feels like 98 degrees, but when I was outside reporting live at 6 o'clock, we caught a little bit of a breeze down about 84, 85 in Cape Coral. It felt almost heavenly.
And it didn't take that much longer until we started hearing the rumblings of the thunderstorm that was approaching. So that breeze usually first comes, and that's usually a sign the thunderstorm's coming.
It's your outflow boundary.
Right.
So there you go. Once you can feel it, you're like, oh yes, it feels great. You can also typically smell the rain as well. And we certainly could here in Cape Coral at the Pine Island Studios. Thankfully for now, conditions are nice and quiet, but we'll do it all over again tomorrow evening. The only storm we're watching right now, about 30 miles offshore. The reason I'm keeping an eye on it is because it's producing a beautiful light show. Let's take a live look outside right now. This is from Tarpon Lodge. And as we look off toward the south and west over the Gulf of Mexico, you will see the sky illuminate. And again, that's because of a thunderstorm that is situated well offshore. Not worried about this storm coming onshore. It's going to stay away, but still producing quite a nice view. Meanwhile, another perspective, today's high temperatures, as Chris said, very toasty indeed, 93 degrees. Of course, it felt even hotter. It felt more like the mid to upper 90s before those storms rolled through. Record stands at 95. Naples registered a high of 87. Punta Gorda hit a high of 91. So, today's weather headlines. We will continue to see this active weather pattern each afternoon tomorrow into Friday. And then over the weekend, we'll see some drier air arrive, basically a little bit of a pattern shift. So as a strong ridge of high pressure builds in, our storm chances will be dropping. just 20% for Saturday, down to 10% Sunday into Memorial Day. Also, as of now, tropics are nice and quiet. There's just this 10% probability of a non-tropical area of low pressure developing off the Carolina coastline. So that's going to be a factor for them over the weekend for rip currents, some rainfall, some gusty winds, but nothing of immediate concern. Also, one thing I want to point out for all of our meteorologist aficionados out there, you will notice that our outlooks are now out to 7 days. Last year, and years prior, they were out to 5 days. Well, now that has been extended, so we are now looking out an entire week ahead. But again, nothing of concern for us, of course. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. Overnight, clouds clear out tomorrow morning. Lots of sunshine to kick off the day. It's going to be a great day, at least the first half of it. Hot, humid, and then those showers and storms fire up after 2 p.m. So from 2 p.m. onward, just stay vigilant, stay weather aware. Those showers and storms will be firing up. And while most of the active weather will stay inland, we will again see a bit of activity closer to the coastline, especially once those westerly winds die down. Same story heading into Friday. Friday morning, a nice quiet start. And then heading into the afternoon after 2 p.m., those showers and storms will be developing with the heating of the day. Same hazards apply. Heavy rainfall, frequent lightning, gusty winds will continue to be our immediate concerns. So looking now at that 7-day forecast, temperatures staying toasty for tomorrow, up to 91, but feeling more like the upper 90s. Afternoon scattered showers and storms in the mix the next couple of days. Then notice this Saturday, your rain chances could see an afternoon, evening storm, but just a 20% rain chance, dropping back to mainly dry and hot, mostly sunny for Memorial Day. So both Sunday into Monday, ideal for outdoor plans, and of course, so many commemorations of Memorial Day. Partly cloudy, staying dry for your Tuesday and Wednesday.
Thanks, Katie. The search for the next police chief for Fort Myers continues with a push for some to promote from within. We'll explain the next steps in this process. That's ahead. An Arcadia man is in custody after DeSoto County deputies say he rammed into a squad car during a traffic stop last night, then ran off before barricading himself in a home, his home, for more than an hour this afternoon. Deputies were searching for a convicted felon, Ryan Pope, who was out on bond for aggravated battery and assault with a deadly weapon. They say they tried to pull him over for an expired registration last night, which led to Pope ramming in front of a squad car, then driving off. They say he eventually crashed at Northwest County Road 661 and Coker Street, then ran away. Deputies say they finally arrested Pope this afternoon. After getting him from the barricade, neighbors say they're still shaken from all this.
Everybody's a little on edge, I would imagine, around here, keeping their doors locked. And, you know, we have small kids, so it's hard to let them come outside.
DeSoto County Sheriff James Potter says a tip led them to the home that Pope was hiding in today. The search is still very much on for the next police chief for the city of Fort Myers after former Chief Derek Diggs died in February after battling cancer. More than 150 people from across the nation applied for the chief job. Interviews with top applicants are trimming down the field, and that field's expected to be made public soon. The finalists will meet with the city council for another set of interviews. They'll also be part of an open community forum next month where you can ask questions. But the city council has already said it wants to hire someone from within the police department who can continue Chief Diggs' mission. Still ahead here on Fox 4, while presidential announcements usually come over more traditional platforms, you often have large crowds, lots of TV cameras. Governor Ron DeSantis announcing over Twitter Spaces, and it didn't go as planned.
It was very bizarre, but interesting to say the least. The relationship DeSantis has with the platform's CEO that may have influenced his decision to announce this way.
Also, the governor now becomes the second most popular Republican officially in the field after former President Donald Trump, according to the polling, what the two have in common and also where they differ.
Governor Ron DeSantis putting a positive twist to his presidential announcement, delayed due to tech issues.
We announced that on Twitter Spaces earlier tonight, and it broke the internet because so many people were excited about being on that Twitter Space.
Why the governor, now presidential candidate, chose to announce on this specific platform. As Fox 4 News at 10 continues.
Live from Southwest Florida, this is Fox 4 News at 10.
After months of lots of speculation, Governor Ron DeSantis confirmed he's running for president tonight, and he did this during a Twitter Spaces chat with Elon Musk. But many wonder why he chose that social media platform for such a big announcement.
Has a lot of people talking tonight, Chris. Investigative reporter Katie LaGrone is giving us an in-depth look at the relationship between DeSantis and the billionaire CEO and finds a short history that appears to only be growing.
It's a relationship attracting a new level of attention. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and tech billionaire Elon Musk. But even before DeSantis' team confirmed his run for the presidency would be officially announced during a conversation with the Twitter CEO on Twitter Spaces, there were signs of a brewing connection between the politician and the businessman.
We're working with Elon Musk, and he's got the Starlink satellite.
Last fall, the two, who reportedly met in 2021, made headlines when the governor announced Musk and SpaceX would deliver 120 satellites to Southwest Florida to help Hurricane Ian victims get back online. Then this past session, DeSantis' GOP-led legislature appeared to give Musk a wink and a nod when they approved a bill protecting private spaceflight companies like SpaceX from getting sued if a crew member is killed or injured during a flight.
There are two ways of looking at this relationship. One is that it's a purely political relationship, and the other is that it's a business relationship. And frankly, it might be a combination of both.
Political analyst Brian Crowley has covered Florida and national politics for more than 3 decades.
And all of a sudden, Elon Musk, who has struggled with Twitter since his takeover, is going to wind up with this enormous interest in Twitter Spaces. And of course, it never hurts a presidential candidate to have a billionaire on his side, have somebody who has a loud voice.
With 140 million plus Twitter followers, billions in the bank, and a public disdain for former President Donald Trump, Musk is in a position to help DeSantis. But while he stated support for Ron DeSantis in 24, the self-described political moderate has yet to fully endorse a single candidate.
You sort of get the feeling he's backing Ron DeSantis. He's also indicated support for Tim Scott. So you wonder, especially the way Elon Musk appears to think, how much of this is just a business relationship
or a longer-term strategy between a businessman and a politician looking to win. I'm Katie LaGrone reporting.
A subject that someone asked Governor Ron DeSantis about during the Twitter announcement, his ongoing battle with Disney, the feud expected to amplify as the state's largest LGBTQ plus organizations get all set for an annual celebration at the theme park, a tradition since 1991. Gay Days leaders say the 4-day event will go on despite concern about what a DeSantis presidential run might bring for them in Florida. Specifically, the group says members have reached out with some concern following the governor's approval of a series of bills that restrict transgender health care, bathroom usage, and drag performances in the state. That's why they say they're hoping that more allies will show up in support for this year.
We need the help of people to stand up and stand together. Everything that's passing is not just affecting us as an event that happens over one weekend. We're a gay-owned business. It affects us there.
And the event runs from June 1st to the 5th.
And tonight, Fox 4 is hearing from a political analyst on this topic, retired FGCU professor Dr. Peter Bergerson, speaking to us on several issues live here on Fox 4 News at 6 earlier. Well, he's now going in depth on the Disney feud and how he says it will be an obstacle DeSantis must overcome.
I see that as a real issue or a real problem that he's going to have to finesse. There's just no question about it that is one of the issues that is going to really follow him, and he's going to have to be really adroit and strategic about how he overcomes this, the idea of being anti-business, particularly here in relationship to Disney. That is going to follow him throughout the campaign.
Now, Professor Bergerson also tells us Southwest Florida will play an important role in the governor's campaign. He does expect Lee, Charlotte, and Collier counties to be overwhelmingly supporting both in votes and donations.
We're about 8 months out from the Iowa caucuses. The recent polling for the Republican nomination for 2024 shows everybody is well behind former President Donald Trump. Even DeSantis, who's second in the polling, trailing Trump anywhere between about 25 and 45%, depending on the poll. But in the head-to-head matchups against President Biden, DeSantis is even or better than the president than Trump is against him in a Trump-Biden matchup. Also joining the field, though, South Carolina Senator Tim Scott and also former VP Mike Pence, looking to enter the ring soon.
And now Republican voters will have more choices, throwing their support behind former President Donald Trump again or vote for a new candidate like Governor Ron DeSantis. But as Sofia Hernandez explains, although the two may be the most popular candidates in Florida, Chris just mentioned it, they couldn't be more different.
They are currently Florida's most talked about politicians.
In order to make America great and glorious again, I am tonight announcing my candidacy for President of the United States.
Florida is where woke goes to die.
But while the two Republicans look similar on paper, personality-wise, they couldn't be more different.
We all know who Donald Trump is. We know his personality. He tends to get himself into a lot of trouble from time to time, but his supporters forgive him. Ron DeSantis is still new. And while a lot of folks out there like what they hear about him, they still don't know him very well.
That's according to Brian Crowley, a Florida political analyst, who says the major differences are in how the two conservatives operate. Former President Donald Trump is no stranger to the spotlight. Crowley emphasizes Trump was raised in a wealthy family, became a successful businessman, starred in the show The Apprentice, and then went on to win the presidency in 2016. And he continues to create crowds. USA! 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 And meet them.
He knows how to work a big audience. He knows how to play to the crowd.
However, according to Crowley, DeSantis hasn't had much practice with crowd pleasing and tends to shy away from it.
That is not Ron DeSantis' strongest point. He's a bit of a nerd, if you will, in some ways. He likes to get into details. He likes to get into process. He likes to study issues, but he's not that good at conveying them in a lot of ways. He's very good at reading a speech, but that spontaneous effort that is necessary in small states, he hasn't demonstrated yet.
And the differences don't stop there, but extend to their policies. Crowley says while Trump paved the way for many younger Republicans like DeSantis, the Florida governor has also learned to pave his own way. One field in particular is through education, a topic the former president rarely touches upon, but Florida's governor continues to emphasize with parental rights.
That rings with most people, whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, just the words parental rights make sense to them. Of course I should have parental rights. Of course I should be the one deciding what happens to my child. Donald Trump hasn't been able to pick up on that. That's something new.
When we explore other issues, the candidates seem to be in alignment. Both Trump and DeSantis are known to be tough on immigration. Trump at times during his presidential term classified immigrants as criminals and evil people. DeSantis became well known on the national scale after Florida paid to transport migrants to Martha's Vineyard. Yet Crowley says of the two, DeSantis is in a more complicated predicament.
As governor of Florida, he has to walk a much finer line. A very significant part of our population are Hispanic immigrants. Some came here legally, some didn't, but they all came here from the freedom that this country represents, and by and large have been accepted. And so he has to walk a slightly finer line as governor. Will he abandon that line as a national candidate? Maybe, we'll see.
Both candidates are also in favor of lower taxes, but the parties they hope to serve differ. According to Crowley, Trump delivered some of the biggest tax cuts our nation has seen during his presidential term, but the cuts favored the wealthy. DeSantis has favored the little guy, helping middle-class families by creating sales tax exemptions and removing taxes from items like diapers. Another topic where they both see eye to eye is gun reform.
The hardworking, God-fearing, card-carrying patriots of the NRA. Thank you very much, everybody.
The former president is a strong believer of the Second Amendment, as is the governor.
Biggest change we've seen in Florida is the fact that concealed weapons are now going to be legal. You won't need a permit.
Crowley says while the two candidates share a likeness in beliefs, their messaging and delivery vary. Crowley says in the weeks to come, all eyes will be on Florida's governor to see if he will be able to go neck and neck with his former ally and capture the votes of America.
That doesn't mean he won't learn how to get better at it, but the clock is ticking.
Sophia Hernandez, Florida 24 Network.
The Biden campaign is also focusing on its agenda, and this also includes the economy, talking about job growth and the manufacturing sector. Florida State Senator Chevron Jones is also part of the campaign's National Advisory Board.
President Biden is solely focused on winning re-election. The president is not concerned about Donald Trump. He's not concerned about Ron DeSantis, Tim Scott, or anyone right now. The president is going to run on his record. And he's going to show America that, for these past 4 years, we've been the difference the entire time.
The president's re-election campaign launch video did not mention names, but did show images of both Trump and DeSantis talking about what it called extreme agendas, like the recent abortion bans that various states have passed over the past year. The story of Tina Turner's life was made into a big budget movie 30 years ago, and it was an incredible story even back then.
Yeah, well, coming up, millions around the world are mourning the loss of an icon in song and also female empowerment, known as the Queen of Rock and Roll. We'll have this story coming up.
And also, you think back to 1 year ago today, we all learned about Uvalde, Texas. That mass shooting, 19 children died. How people are remembering the victims and the questions still unanswered 1 year later.
Showers and storms again forecast to fire up tomorrow afternoon. I'll break down the timeline and just how long this wet weather pattern will stick around and if it could impact Memorial Day weekend next.
A timeless artist passes at 83. Tina Turner died on Tuesday after a long illness in her home in Switzerland.
Yeah, tonight, Ashley Dvorkin is looking back on the impact Turner made throughout her life and iconic career.
What's love got to do with it?
Legendary singer Tina Turner has died at the age of 83. Turner's official Instagram announced her passing and stated, "With her music and her boundless passion for life, she enchanted millions of fans around the world and inspired the stars of tomorrow." The queen of rock and roll, Tina Turner, was born Anna Mae Bullock in 1939. She started her music career in the 1950s. In 1956, she met Ike Turner. They married in 1962, performed as the Ike and Tina Turner Revue, and in 1971 released their version of Proud Mary, which won a Grammy. While in the spotlight with their music, Tina later shared her story about the abusive marriage she endured over the years. In 1976, Tina left Ike and they were divorced in 1978. Tina Turner's solo career took her to superstardom in the 1980s, including the album Private Dancer and hits like What's Love Got to Do with It and We Don't Need Another Hero. Tina shared the story of her life and career and surviving domestic abuse in her 1986 memoir, I, Tina, My Life Story. The book was the inspiration for the 1993 movie What's Love Got to Do with It, starring Angela Bassett. A Broadway show about her life, Tina, the Tina Turner musical, debuted in 2018.
It hurts to have to remember those times.
Most recently, the icon was the subject of the 2021 HBO documentary, Tina.
You're simply the best.
Over the course of Tina Turner's career, she won 8 Grammy Awards, sold more than 150 million records worldwide, was honored at the Kennedy Center in 2005, and she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Flags in Texas flying at half staff as today marks a year since a shooter killed 19 children and 2 teachers at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Texas Governor Greg Abbott also called for a statewide moment of silence at 11:30 a.m. to remember the victims, the survivors, the families, and the town. That's around the time the 18-year-old entered the school through an unlocked door and started firing. Questions lingered about why it took law enforcement 77 minutes to stop the threats. The debate over gun laws also, of course, continues.
Well, 10:48 on this Wednesday evening. Earlier today, we had some storms come through. Mother Nature's still putting on a show for us here in Southwest Florida.
I've had the stretch of the past few days, been watching those storms further inland for the last couple of days, but as we bring in Fox 4 certified meteorologist Katie Walls, we had the lightning last night doing everything. Looks fairly clear for now, though.
That's right, at least on land, but if you look about 30 miles offshore, we are watching a beautiful light show. But don't worry, these storms not moving onshore anytime soon. It's just something that we get to enjoy from a distance. Speaking of which, let's take a live look and see if we can catch a little bit of Mother Nature's fireworks here. We are looking toward the south and west from the Tarpon Lodge Skycam, located on Pineland, of course, on Pine Island. But overall, let's see if we can catch a glimpse. No, that storm is now starting to shift a bit farther off toward the south. At this point, it's basically due west of Naples. But for those of you in Naples, if you look westward, that is the storm that we are currently watching. Before the showers and storms fired up, temperatures quite toasty. We started off the morning at 72, afternoon highs warm to 93, just 2 degrees shy of that record set back in 1975. So on the big calendar, that means once again, above average by 3 degrees between the morning low and the afternoon high. As of right now, looking at the last 24 days, the departure from normal is 2.7 degrees. Based upon that, as of right now, it's the second hottest May on record in Fort Myers, going back to the 1890s. So the heat, the humidity will continue, and unsurprisingly, those factors will help to contribute to those developing showers and storms for the next couple of afternoons. So the next couple of afternoons, like today, please stay weather aware. Heavy downpours, frequent lightning will be concerns, and in some of those stronger storms, we could have some gusty, damaging winds, just as we saw in Clewiston, for example. Then over the weekend, we'll see a little bit of a pattern shift, some drier air. So for Saturday, just an isolated rain chance in the mix, and then mainly dry conditions, hot conditions expected Sunday into Memorial Day. Also great news, the tropics, nice and quiet. Of course, it is that time of year that we're going to be monitoring that a little bit more closely. So next couple of afternoons, those rain probabilities, they will stay elevated in the likely range at 60%, dropping them down to 20% for your Saturday, then just 10% rain chance in the mix both Sunday heading into Memorial Day. By helping you plan out your Thursday morning will be just fine. Lots of sunshine to kick off the day. It'll be another muggy start, of course. And then after 2 p.m., those showers and storms will be developing with the heating of the day. And while most of the action will stay to the east of I-75, I am expecting some storms to also impact the spots to the west of 75. Like we saw today, we saw a pretty healthy thunderstorm here over the Fox 4 studios in Cape Coral, stretching down to Iona McGregor and into Estero Island. So that will be a possibility tomorrow as well, just because of a bit of a wind shift. So scattered storms in the mix through tomorrow evening. Those storms, though, losing their energy and fizzling out shortly after sunset. Same story into Friday. Then over the weekend, we'll back down those rain chances, ideal for outdoor plans for Memorial Day. Mostly sunny skies with highs around 90 degrees.
Ahead on Fox 4 News at 11, the governor's big debut as a presidential candidate didn't go as planned. How he's now spinning Twitter tech issues following a long anticipated presidential announcement.
Also, the jury is still out on whether or not Joseph Zeiler will get the death penalty. If he doesn't, to look at how long he could spend in prison for killing an 11-year-old girl and a babysitter in Cape Coral 33 years ago.
Plus, a fender bender turns into a hit and run in Cape Coral, and the bizarre action the driver took next before she then got away. It also was all caught on camera. We will leave you with this gorgeous shot overlooking Cape Coral outside the Fox 4 News studios. What you don't see are those storms that came through earlier, Chris.
Now, we had this last night. We had nothing but big lightning shows. We were looking on this camera last night, and it looked like it was close by, but really it was 100 miles away. It was over in Broward County. But we do know, looking off of the Gulf to our west, we're getting a light show for a time, but it sounds like it will not be a threat to us, as Katie Walls will get us all set for that forecast coming up at 11.
Live from Fox 4, this is breaking news.
And we begin with breaking news. After 33 years, a jury has reached a recommendation in the cold case killing against Joseph Zeiler.
Now, it's key to note, though, we are still waiting for whatever that recommendation is in this, and it can still be non-binding to the judge on this. The judge can go with a recommendation or not on whether or not to give the death penalty to Zeiler, convicted less than a week ago of killing an 11-year-old girl and her babysitter in what was a cold case in Cape Coral going back to 1990.
So jurors had a lot to consider in the last several hours. State prosecutors have to prove certain factors that would constitute the death penalty. Today, they used testimony from the victim's own family and doctors to do just that.
And meanwhile, the defense also used doctors, telling the jury that they should not sentence Zeiler to the death penalty for numerous reasons: his age, what they called mental health disabilities, and other criteria. But there's a new Florida law. Only 8 of 12 jurors, instead of all 12, are needed to recommend the death penalty.
So what will they recommend? That is what we are waiting on right now. Again, breaking, the jury has reached a recommendation. We are told they might be coming back to the courtroom late on this Wednesday night. Hopefully by the end of this Fox 4 News at 11 newscast, we will have an answer, whether it's life, at least 25 years in prison, or the death penalty again for Joseph Zeiler. Well, failure to launch. It is fair to say that the governor's big presidential announcement didn't go as planned. Thank you guys for joining us for Fox 4 News at 11. I'm Nadine Yanis.
And I'm Chris Earl. All the months of lead up to this, all the speculation, the book coming out, all the visits. His announcement, though, on Twitter stalled for nearly 30 minutes because of tech issues before Ron DeSantis could officially declare that he is in to try to win the Republican nomination for 2024.
So as Capitol reporter Forrest Saunders reports, critics hammered DeSantis while the governor in this new video tried to put a spin with a campaign video on Twitter.
It was the announcement that almost wasn't.
And we want to welcome you to this historic Twitter Spaces event.
Malfunctions plagued Governor Ron DeSantis' big night as frequent crashes.
So I think we're back online here.
Delayed things for more than 20 minutes. The moderators, Twitter CEO Elon Musk and tech entrepreneur David Sachs, blamed clogged servers choked with more than 500,000 listeners.
We've got so many people here that I think we are kind of melting the servers.
DeSantis did finally get it out there.
Well, I am running for president of the United States to lead our great American comeback.
And went on to deliver some familiar lines from stump speeches, like calling on Republicans to, quote, reject a culture of losing, followed by a Q&A touching on tougher border security, cutting bureaucracy, and rejecting COVID mandates.
Hi, this is Governor Ron DeSantis.
DeSantis later addressed the issues in an online post about his prospective presidency.
We announced that on Twitter Spaces earlier tonight, and it broke the internet because so many people were excited about being on that Twitter space.
While his campaign spun, touting $1 million raised in an hour, as supporters claim DeSantis will fight a, quote, toxic woke culture.
Ron DeSantis is the warrior who will stand up against that. He's somebody who, if he tells you he's going to build a wall, he'll actually get it built, unlike Donald Trump.
But critics were merciless, even Fox News giving a headline of amateur hour, while the Lincoln Project and Florida Democrats dubbed the launch a failure to launch.
I can tell you, Forrest, that he's going to stumble on the national stage. We've already seen him doing that.
Former Florida Congresswoman Debbie Mucarsel-Powell saying Democrats consider the governor too extreme for the country, vowing a united front.
He is behind Donald Trump by more than double digits, and really he's just like Donald Trump. If anything, he is Donald Trump on steroids.
Former President Donald Trump, the current GOP primary frontrunner, got in on DeSantis dunking as well.
The Washington established politicians like to talk about how they can be just like Donald Trump.
His campaign released this ad suggesting the governor is just a Trump wannabe.
Why would we ever settle for Trump imposters?
And before his announcement today, Governor Ron DeSantis signed an election reform bill into law that does allow him to run for president without having to resign as Florida governor. State lawmakers crafted the exception to Florida's resign to run law during this past legislative session. Republicans have said repeatedly it's not a gift to the governor, saying they see no issue with his juggling a national campaign with his duties in Tallahassee. But some Democrats already see him as an absentee governor with his recent global travels and also visits to swing states, Iowa twice, and also New Hampshire. Political experts, though, do say it's a big risk.
This is not the West Wing where Jeb Bartlett is the president of New Hampshire, and that's all he's got to, worry about. This is a big, complex state. It's why we don't see a lot of big state governors make it to that next level.
But we have seen this in recent decades from large states of the White House. George W. Bush from Texas, Ronald Reagan from California to D.C., both of highly populated states. But it was George W. Bush who was still in office when elected in 2000.
All right, we want to go back to that breaking news at the top of the show. After 33 years, a jury has now recommended the death penalty against Joseph Zeiler. At the top, we said they had just gone out for a recommendation. We now know it was 10-2 against this convicted killer.
So that beats the 8-juror threshold to at least recommend the death penalty to the judge in this case. Joseph Zeiler, of course, convicted of killing an 11-year-old girl and a babysitter in what was a cold case in Cape Coral from 1990. And, of course, several factors to consider over the past few hours, but they've had the case for about 5.5 hours.
Yeah, that's right. So, you know, not only did state prosecutors bring the victim's own family up to testify in this penalty phase, but the defense was also using the jury, saying that they should not sentence Zeiler to death for reasons like his age, mental health, disabilities, among other things.
But again, to recap, the jury in this case recommending the death penalty with 10 yes votes on this. Again, this is non-binding, and the judge in this case, Robert Branding, will have the final word on this for the future of Joseph Zeiler.
Tonight, we're also working to find answers about a house fire on Southwest 36th Terrace and Agua Linda Boulevard in Cape Coral. City officials say the fire is now out, but you can see it here. It created thick smoke coming from all sides of the home. Now, it's not clear how the fire started or if anyone was hurt, but we will share these details once we learn more.
We're also tracking a 300-acre wildfire in Lee County, in Estero, burning north of Corkscrew Road near the place and also Verdana Village living communities. The Florida Forest Service's crews, though, have the fire 80% contained. Estero Fire also working to put it out. They do note the wind is creating some challenges like some of the thick smoke, but they do say no structures are threatened at this time.
And then a thunderstorm that hit Hendry County around 4:30 this afternoon, causing damage to a nursing home there. So much so, the sheriff's office says deputies helped Clewiston police evacuate residents there at the Clewiston Nursing and Rehabilitation Center. This after strong winds caused roof damage. Deputies say residents there have been relocated and there are no injuries. As we bring in Katie, you have the storm right behind you there.
That's right. This was the storm that hit them right around 4:30 this afternoon. Thankfully, much quieter at this hour, but you just get an idea of how intense that storm was, producing gusty, damaging winds. And that's the case this time of year. We have to stay so vigilant and weather aware. It's not just the heavy rain and lightning, it's also the potential for those gusty, damaging winds, exactly as we saw in Clewiston. The only storm that we have right now offshore, so if you are looking toward the Gulf, especially from Naples and Marco Island, you might be seeing quite the light show, and it is that storm there well offshore. Rain chances staying elevated the next couple of days, dropping over Memorial Day weekend. I'll talk more about that in your 7-day forecast next.
Katie, we'll see you then. Also tonight, a bizarre hit and run caught on camera, showing a driver covering up their license plate before then taking off. The person recording says this driver left the scene after a little fender bender. Fox 4's Colton Chavez caught up with the teen driver who says they were behind the wheel and holding that cell phone.
Well, it was right here on this corner of Veterans Parkway where we see that video begin. Now, the recorder of that video, 16-year-old Bella Cruz, she says she was rounding this corner onto Veterans Parkway when the driver behind her ran into the back of her vehicle. Now, Bella tells me both vehicles pulled over to the side of the road, and for Bella, she says it felt like a routine fender bender. And as the two were exchanging information, Bella says it wasn't until she went back into her car to get her cell phone to take a picture of the other person's license plate. That's when Bella says that the driver started to disguise her license plate and eventually take off. And of course, all of this was captured on Bella's cell phone.
As soon as I got my phone, she started opening her trunk and grabbed a blanket or a towel out of her trunk and then started covering her license plate.
Cape Coral high schooler Isabella Cruz caught what she says was a bizarre hit and run on her cell phone Tuesday, right after she said she was hit from behind, claiming the other driver ran into her driver's side back bumper while Isabella says she was turning right from Santa Barbara onto Veterans Memorial Parkway. And she said the first thing she reached for was her cell phone.
I was like, if I don't have her license plate, at least let me get a video of her covering in like a type of car, because I didn't know what car she was in.
The damage, a single dent seen on Isabella's back bumper. But inside the car, in the same driver's seat where she recorded from, Isabella tells me she gave up a lot to afford the car that takes her both to school and her part-time job, which pays for it all.
I quit like soccer, like a sport that I played for 10 years, just to start making money. And most of them, like, they just get a first car as soon as they're 16. They don't have to pay insurance. Like, every month I pay $500 out of my checks.
Isabella quickly calling police and filing a report as she watched that driver take off.
If I let her get away, I was honestly gonna chase her. But at the same time, I was like, I was supposed to stay. My mom was already on her way. A cop will come. This can be taken a better, easier way.
Now, I have reached out to the Cape Coral Police Department for more information on this incident. Isabella, of course, showing me that police report and giving me their case number so we can find out more information on the search for this driver. In Cape Coral, Colton Chavez, Fox 4.
Thanks, Colton. Isabel definitely did the right thing in that stressful situation. Arcadia man is in custody after DeSoto County deputies say he rammed into a patrol vehicle during a traffic stop last night, ran off, then barricaded himself in his home for more than an hour this afternoon. Deputies were searching for a convicted felon, Ryan Pope, who was out on bond for aggravated battery and assault with a deadly weapon. They say they tried to pull him over for an expired registration last night, and that led to him ramming the front of a squad car and driving off. They say he eventually crashed, though, at County Road 661 and Coker Street, and then ran off. Deputies say they finally arrested Pope this afternoon after getting him out of a barricade. Sheriff James Potter says a tip led them to the home that he was in today. The search is still on for the next Fort Myers police chief after former Chief Derek Diggs died in February after battling cancer. More than 150 people from across the nation applied for the job. Interviews with top applicants are cutting the field down. That field's expected to be made public soon. Finalists will meet with the city council for another interview round and will also be part of an open community forum next month where you can show up and ask questions. But the Fort Myers City Council already said it wants to hire someone from within who can continue Chief Diggs' mission.
We need a chief who understands that where we are in the level of service and performance, and how do we keep growing forward? Not to accept that, hey, we're doing good, but to say, we're doing good, but how do we do better?
The community forum to meet those finalists for the chief job in Fort Myers will be on June 1st.
And looking ahead to tomorrow, it'll be a quiet start, but heading into the afternoon, scattered showers and storms will be developing, and there could be some impacts just like today. I'll have that timing and where those storms are likely next.